President-elect Trump earlier this week made a lot of news about his now repeated interest in the idea of the United States basically subsuming Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal. Maggie and Zolan, let's take the president-elect at his word here. What might it look like to use, let's just use the example of military power, perhaps not to invade, but to begin a campaign of intimidation to try to convince Denmark this is inevitable?
I can't speak to what a military effort would look like that isn't an invasion. In terms of economic, pressure, tariffs are Trump's tool of choice and have been over and over again. And I was talking to a former Biden administration official about this today, who was saying that, folks in Greenland are alarmed about the tariff threats. And there's a sense in Greenland that, as David said, this is different than the discussion in 2019, which was this would be great for us strategically. And so that's a little different than I want this and I'm going to take it. And I've been reminding some people in the last couple of days that Trump in the early 1980s, when he was making his name as a developer, did things like threaten to move homeless people into a building he had bought to try to get certain tenants out. He did things like paint the homes of people who lived near one of his casinos in Atlantic City because he just didn't like the way they looked without asking their permission. Just went and painted their houses. And so, this is his mindset, and everything is sort of flat and the same, and he's treating it that way. Trump never rules anything out. So
it's straight out of his playbook. Economic coercion is straight out of his playbook.
Exactly.
And it's not just Denmark and Panama, which he focused on in the press conference, leaders there that are rattled by this. Right. He also talked about Canada and potentially using economic coercion there. Also, the tricky thing with these press conferences is people we focus on, in one example, Trump said, I want to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, right? The focus is there. But also, he did have comments about Mexico and the Mexican government not doing enough to stop migrants, to stop drug trafficking. We know that he has also threatened tariffs against Mexico before. So while there might be sort of a flashy, statement at the top of this, I do think there's a real through line behind it. And it does, rattle leaders, including some of our biggest trade partners.